Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, inshallah ta'ala, today we will continue our discussion on the topic, now what after Ramadan. And previously we had been speaking about the letdown that comes with the end of Ramadan and the end of all of that barakah, all of that, all those spiritual exercises, all of that spiritual energy that we have in Ramadan, and how we feel. We may feel a little deflated, we may feel a little sad, we may feel a little depressed, how to deal with that. And also at the same time, how to try to continue to reap the benefits of Ramadan after Ramadan has ended. We had a brief hiatus, but prior to the hiatus, we spoke about four which fall into that category. The first one, to secure the reward for Ramadan, not being overconfident and asking Allah repeatedly to reward us for the Ramadan that we had and the deeds that we did in Ramadan. The second thing that we said was to continue the regular practice of fasting, and we talked about that in detail. We also said the third thing was to continue the practice of Qiyam al-Layl as much as we could. And then last but not least, from the four that we mentioned previously, was to continue to have a connection with the Book of Allah, the Quran, and we talked about different ways to do that. Today we continue with item number 5 from our list of things to do, I guess you could say action items after Ramadan, and the fifth one is to exert ourselves in resisting the temptation to engage in illegal activities, al-muharramat. Brothers and sisters, if you notice, in Ramadan we engage in a jihad of sorts. A jihad in which we forced ourselves to forsake lawful pleasures, food, drink, and intimacy with our spouses. And we did this throughout the daylight hours. We practiced this self-restraint throughout the day, every day in Ramadan. After 30 days of fasting, after 30 days of fasting, we trained ourselves to defy our desires and to practice an intense level of self-restraint. And if we're able to resist the temptation to do what is lawful, we are as capable, if not more so capable, to resist the temptation to do what is unlawful. That's what Ramadan teaches us, how capable we are to control ourselves and to practice self-restraint. So let us carry what we've learned, carry that willpower, brothers and sisters, and use that same willpower to forsake what is unlawful, whether in the daytime or the nighttime, whether in public or in private. If we do this, Allah will reward us by guiding us, while Allah will give us a special guidance from Him because of our what? Our exerting ourselves and making this jihad, not just in Ramadan, but outside of Ramadan. He will also reward us by being with us when we need Him the most. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلُنَا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمَعَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. He says, as for those who strive for our sake, we will guide along our paths. Indeed, Allah is with the doers of good. So that was item number 5 from our action items, and that is to continue to exert ourselves and to make this jihad against ourselves, specifically as it relates to the unlawful thing, the muharramat, outside of Ramadan, just like we made jihad against ourselves in Ramadan toward lawful things. The 6th action item is to beware of heedlessness. Beware of al-ghafla. Beware of heedlessness. In Ramadan, brothers and sisters, because we spent so much time reading the Quran, offering prayer, making supplications, and remembering Allah, we tasted the sweetness of mindfulness and spiritual consciousness. We just felt like at every turn, Allah was on our mind. Our duty to Allah was on our mind, and we were trying to be as observant as possible of that duty in Ramadan. Now that Ramadan is over, we have to be on guard, brothers and sisters, from slipping into the heedlessness that afflicts many of us in the other months of the year. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. He says, and remember your Lord within yourself, and fearfully and quietly, humbly, in the morning and the evening, and do not be from those who are heedless. Allah tells us O believers, do not be from those who are heedless, those who are not mindful of Allah, those who actually did certain times of the day, certain weeks out of the month, certain months out of the year, at certain times, Allah is far from their mind. We shouldn't be from those people. وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. Do not be from the heedless. One of the ways to avoid being from the heedless is to avoid associating with heedless people. As the Prophet said in the hadith, Al-Mar'a dini khalili, a person will follow the faith of his closest companion. If we associate with heedless people, we ourselves will be heedless. They will rub off on us and affect us in a negative way. So we should avoid associating with the heedless people so we can avoid being heedless. We should also avoid associating with people who associating with them will make us heedless. So you have heedless people. If you associate with them, you'll be heedless like them. You also have people who they themselves may not be heedless. The word heedless may not be an accurate characterization of who they are and how they operate. But associating with them will make us heedless. Even though they themselves are not heedless, they will make us heedless. And an example of this is some people who are quote-unquote religious. But they're religious in their own certain way, or they're keen to observe certain aspects of the religion while they abandon, ignore, dismiss other aspects. So those people, if we associate with them and we're trying to be mindful of Allah and observe certain aspects of the religion, those people may discourage us and say, oh, you don't have to do that. That's just sunnah. That's just recommended. You don't have to do that. And so they'll put pressure on us to abandon those things and to therefore be what? Heedless. Associated with people like that will make us heedless. And so therefore, we should also not just avoid associating with the heedless people, but also avoid associating with those people who associate heedless. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and mentioning this or referring to this, He says, وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا. And do not obey him whose heart we have made heedless of our remembrance. So he follows his own desires, and his priorities are all mixed up. Another way to avoid being heedless is to make it a point to recite the various supplications and adhkar, words of remembrance, that the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to make in the morning, in the evening, and in various circumstances. That basically the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us supplications for almost every circumstance. He taught us a dhikr, a word of remembrance, or formulas of remembrance that we can make in every circumstance. And if we are keen to recite these adhkar at their appropriate times, recite these supplications at their appropriate times, and do so with the presence of mind and presence of heart, then we will avoid being from the heedless people, as Allah says, وَلَا تَكُنْ مِنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. And do not be from al-ghafilin. So at this point we've reached 6, which if we do them, we will be from the people who will continue to reap the benefits of Ramadan long after Ramadan has passed. And there are a couple of other points that I want to mention. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll mention those points in our last installment of this series of talks. Now, what after Ramadan? So we've mentioned 6 up to this point, and we'll mention the last few or the last couple tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.